Welcome everybody to our conclusion of our Formula D competition. We have been racing for the last couple weeks. We had 8 racers. We've narrowed it down to 4, and these are our top leads. Whoever wins this comes in first in the competition. Let's take a look at our racers. We've got the Duke boys in the red car. They have the ability to jump over a car directly in front of them. We've got the Blues brothers, of course, in the blue car. We've got Wayne and Garth in the green car, and we have Toonces, the driving cat, who has the ability to voluntarily take damage to his car to leave off extra damage markers on the board. You'll notice 2 of the characters have special abilities. That's because all of these racers were in teams. In each team, 1 racer had a special ability, the other did not. So the Blues brothers and Wayne and Garth had teammates with special abilities, but they themselves do not. But in the qualifying race, Wayne and Garth got first place, so they got pole position. Toonces got second, so they are in the second starting position. The Duke boys got third. And finally, the Blues brothers are starting in the 4th position. We are racing in New Jersey, where it is nice and sunny. It's the first sunny race of this competition, so it's a good way to end it. But it does look a little pixelated, so watch for 80s cartoon characters coming to get you. Alright, so the cars are revving up their engines. Sounds like they're about ready to go. And they're off! And what a start! 2 of the cars rolled 20s on their initial burst off of the starting line. That means they get bonus movement, and Wayne and Garth have already entered that first turn. At the end of the turn, they roll perfectly, and they fulfilled the snake turn at the last space. That's exactly what you want. Everyone else is just getting into the next turn, except for the Blues brothers, who would have to slow down through this turn, but they slipstream off of Toonces and get into the bend on this turn. Now they're all on the snake bend. Then Wayne and Garth hurry out of it, while the rest trail behind. Alright, Wayne and Garth don't quite make the next turn, while everybody else is fulfilling the snake turn. And that gives people a chance to catch up. They're all in the second turn together, except for Toonces, who gets into it just as everybody else is in the next turn ahead of them. Toonces is really going to have to work to catch up with everybody. You do not want a reckless cat on the road. And now Wayne's World and Blues Brothers have zipped ahead to the next turn. The Duke boys slipped up a little bit, and now they're halfway behind, with Toonces nipping at their tails. And the Duke boys open up, zipping ahead into the next turn, recklessly zipping through it, while Wayne's World and the Blues Brothers are fulfilling it, taking it easy. And Toonces has not even gotten into the turn. So that is, once again, an unlucky cat. The Duke boys have to slow way down so that they don't destroy their car coming out of that snake turn. Toonces is coming behind them, and the Blues brothers in Wayne's World open up into that straightaway. Or sort of straightaway, it's kind of a curvy straightaway. They get into the next turn, while the Duke boys and Toonces are just getting to that snaky straightaway. And the 2 leads get into the next bend, while the followers don't even get into the first one. The leads are in the straightaway, and oh no, Toonces no! Toonces is voluntarily taking some damage to leave some debris behind in hopes the Duke boys will get tripped up on it. The Duke boys have no choice but to run over it, but they take very little damage as they get into the next turn, and Toonces comes just out of it. Up ahead, Wayne's World has gotten all the way through the U-turn, and the Blues brothers hasn't even started it. So as the Blues brothers just gets into it, Wayne's World is zipping through that straightaway. Toonces and the Duke boys are still in the straightaway before, and they have to slow way down, and the Blues brothers are doing their best to catch up with Wayne and Garth. I just realized this is a race of a lot of pairs. Toonces is the only one that's in its car alone. Now everybody's in the straightaway except for Wayne and Garth, who are already in that snake turn. He is way ahead of them, far out of their sight. Except he has to slow down quite a bit in order to fulfill the turn, but that's alright because the others haven't even started the turn. And Wayne and Garth are going to pass by pit lane. They don't need a pit stop. Doesn't look like anybody needs it. Although the Blues brothers and Toonces have taken quite a bit of tire damage coming out of that snake turn. And now they're all biting at the heels of Wayne and Garth, who has now entered the next snake turn. They're all bypassing the starting line. This is a 3-lap race. And now everybody gets in that snake turn as Wayne and Garth come out of it. We've got Wayne and Garth in lead with the Duke boys neck and neck with Toonces and the Blues brothers behind. This still could be anybody's race. Although Wayne and Garth don't think so as they go into the next turn, and everybody else fulfills the snake turn. He goes through the third, and the Blues brothers pull out ahead of the rest of them. And the Duke boys haven't even started their turn. Looks like they're going to be dragging behind as Wayne and Garth really pull out ahead, and the others go through the next turn. The Duke boys are doing everything they can to get back into this race. Wayne and Garth are sliding through the next turn. They're going to roll perfectly and fulfill it on the last space, while Blues brothers and Toonces just get into it. And now Wayne and Garth open up in that curvy straightaway, while the others are still maneuvering through that turn. Wayne and Garth pull way ahead, and now this race is really more of one between the Blues brothers and Toonces, as the Duke boys are too far behind to really have much hope of getting back into this race. Although we might still have some people going in for pit stop next time. And now Toonces dropping some of that debris behind is affecting Wayne and Garth in the lead, who are having to turn far on the outside, giving Toonces the chance to catch up, and the Blues Brothers, who are also trying to get in there. Wayne and Garth using the outside, slow down just a little bit, and the Blues Brothers go ahead and drive further on the inside, chancing running over Toonces' debris. They are the Blues Brothers after all. They take long chances like that. They take a little bit of damage, but they're okay. It's worth it to get ahead. They go into the next turn, and Toonces has overtaken them. And look behind them, the Duke boys have taken a long chance, have opened up, zipped through that turn, driven over the debris, and now they've made up some ground. They might be getting back into this race, at least for a second or third spot. It's going to be hard to catch up with that lead vehicle as it swings around that U-turn. But look at that, Toonces opened up and rolled a 20 on her movement. She has swung around that U-turn, overtaking Wayne's World, and is skidding into the straightaway. Unfortunately for Toonces, this is a turn you have to end in twice, meaning though she is way ahead, she's not going to be able to take advantage of it, and she's going to have to slow way down coming out of that turn, or she's going to take so much tire damage, she will spin out. Wayne's World is slowed down in the outside of that turn, so that they can fulfill the 2 times through it, which put Toonces ahead, but not for long. And now you see Toonces has come out of it, but she's had to slow way down, she's had to brake and go into a lower gear, while Wayne and Garth have fulfilled the turn normally, haven't taken any damage, and now they're in a higher gear, as the Blues Brothers just get started on the turn, and the Duke boys haven't even started it yet. And now Wayne and Garth open up on the straightaway. Toonces is not fully left behind yet, but the Blues Brothers and the Duke boys are, as they are still slowly getting through that turn. And Wayne and Garth really zip through that straightaway, almost to the next turn, but just shy of it, so they're going to have to slow way down. Toonces is having to shift up her gears again just to get back into the race, and the Blues Brothers are starting to nip at her heels. While the Duke boys went a little bit out of that turn, taking some tire damage, but they've got to do something to get back into this race. They are struggling. And now Toonces hurries up and gets into the snake turn at the same time as Wayne and Garth. She may be really badly damaged, but she is in this race now with them. They are neck and neck, while the others are left behind. And now the Blues Brothers overtake them. They opened up completely and raced through that turn, but unfortunately for them, this is another turn that requires 2 stops, and they are skidding through that. You can just see them right there with their car drifting out of the snake turn. They're going to take a lot of tire damage, and they're going to have to gear down really far. And the Blues Brothers are really ziggy-zagging around that track because now they go into pit row all the way across on the other side. They took so much damage racing through that snake turn that they've almost destroyed their car. Toonces isn't letting that bother her. She's staying right up there with Wayne and Garth. She's not going to let them get away from her, while the Duke boys haven't even started the snake turn yet. And by the way, I'm calling Toonces a her. I don't know which it is. In fact, she's probably neutered, so there you go. And now she's pulled up right behind Wayne and Garth. She manages to get in their slipstream. She is slipstreaming them, and now she passes them. Toonces is in the lead, ahead of Wayne and Garth. Wayne's World, that we thought could not be overcome, has now been taken over by a cat, who has taken the lead away from them. The Blues Brothers are in their pit stop, getting the car repaired, while the Duke boys are finishing the snake turn. And now Toonces has completed the turn just in the perfect fashion. Wayne's World's luck is a little bit gone, as they're a little slower going through that turn. And now they open up coming through the next turn, and it's Wayne's World who overtakes Toonces and gets into the next turn. The Blues Brothers are just getting to the turn behind them, and the Duke boys, who I guess feel like they have nothing to lose, are going in for a pit stop themselves. And now Wayne and Garth race through the next turn, taking a little tire damage to exceed their lead, and Toonces is getting through her turn. And now as Wayne's World goes into their own straightaway, Toonces is in the turn behind them, and the Blues Brothers are in the turn behind them, and the Duke boys are in the turn behind them. So you have a whole line of them. And Toonces shrinks the leads as she starts to catch up with Wayne's World, who has now started to fulfill the snake turn. And the Blues Brothers is 1 turn behind them, with the Duke boys taking up the rear. And now Toonces gets into the snake turn. As Wayne's World is starting to come out of it, Blues Brothers comes in behind. It's one right after the other. It is Wayne's World, Toonces, and the Blues Brothers. Duke boys seem to be out of this race. They're so far behind. And now Toonces is paying the price for not pitting, as she had to slow way down so as not to take too much tire damage, and now she's not in a high enough gear to go catch up with Wayne's World. And the Blues Brothers have overcome her. Wayne's World is going along the far end again so as not to run into Toonces' debris. However, they have all gotten a stroke of luck, as Wayne's World has had to slow way down coming out of that turn, and now the Blues Brothers and Toonces are gaining on them. They go into the next turn, and they've all caught up. And in fact, the Blues Brothers have overtaken Wayne's World and are in the lead, with Toonces right behind. They're so close they're almost touching as they come into the straightaway. And now Toonces takes the lead, squeezing in between Wayne's World and the Blues Brothers. It's just the opposite as it was before, with Toonces in the lead, then the Blues Brothers, then Wayne's World. They go into the U-turn. Toonces has a little bit too much speed and has whipped around that turn, with Wayne's World behind her and the Blues Brothers in the rear, but they have to spin another turn in this U-turn, which means, Toonces, look out! Toonces spins out, coming out of that turn. She takes the remainder of her tire damage and skids to a halt as Wayne's World and Blues Brothers have to dodge around her. And once again, Wayne's World is in the lead as they go into the longer straightaway. But Blues Brothers isn't going to let them get away. It is neck and neck. They race down the track. Blues Brothers overtakes them. They're in 5th gear as the Blues Brothers roll a 17 and Wayne's World rolls a 16. They are off by 1 space, folks. This is a close race now. They hit the snake turn in 4th gear, and Wayne's World gets a 9, while Blues Brothers gets a 7. So they overtake them by 1 single space. They both need to fulfill this turn, or take tire damage, and they come skidding out of it, with Wayne's World getting ahead by 1 space. Meanwhile, to give you an idea of how far behind the Duke boys are, they've just passed Toonces. And now the two in the lead open up on the straightaway. The finish line is just ahead of them, the checkered flag is waving, and they both roll equal numbers. But Wayne's World was just barely ahead, and so they win by a nose. That is an exciting race where the winner wins by just barely 1 space, just a hair in front of the second place. And that means this race and the competition in general has ended on this very exciting note, with Wayne's World coming in just ahead of the Blues Brothers for 1st and 2nd place. And funny enough, these were both racers without any special abilities. So clearly that did not play a very big factor in this. So there are your 1st through 3rd places. There's Wayne and Garth in 1st place, Blues Brothers in 2nd, and the Duke boys in 3rd, strictly because Toonces spun out. Had Toonces not wrecked her car, she would have been 3rd and Duke boys would have been 4th. Well, that'll do it for us here in New Jersey. I think you can see the governor beating up a fan voter up there in the stands. So that's probably our cue to leave. So let's flip this table, shall we? Happy gaming, everybody!